Okay, it's called the Impasse meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kim, can you take roll call?
Chair Louis Smelling.
Here.
Vice Chair Betsy McKenna. Here. Commissioner Heather Fleming-Christinus.
Sort of.
Commissioner Dave Cardella.
Here.
Attorney Joe Allison.
Here.
Fire Chief Joe Davidson.
Here.
Operations Chief Dave Perkins.
Here.
Chief Patrick Shaw.
Here.
Chief Louis Smelling. Stover. I'm so sorry. Finance Director Aaron Brooks. Here.
Thank you. All right. Yes.
All right, so we're here on what is being referred to as the impasse hearing. It's my understanding that the union folks want to make the initial presentation, is that right? Okay, and so I just want to remind the commissioners of a couple of things in regard to what the commissioners should be considering during these presentations, and you've probably seen it in the past, but I just want to bring it back to your attention. Under Florida Statute 447.405, considerations for making determinations. These are really for the special magistrate if we had one, but we've skipped through that. But the considerations are, and I'm going to paraphrase these, if any of the attorneys or anybody want to correct me, that's fine. But the first consideration is to make a comparison of the annual income of employees, of employment of the public employees in question with the annual income of employment maintained for the same or similar work of employees exhibiting like or similar skills under the same or similar working conditions in the local operating area involved, which basically in this instance, because of the unique nature of service in the fire profession, would be other fire departments and districts, not necessarily limited to Pinellas, but in this area. The next one would be a comparison of the annual income of employees, of employment of the public employees in question with the annual income of employees of public employees in similar public employee governmental bodies or comparable size within the state, so that expands it out beyond the Pinellas and Tampa Bay area. The third consideration would be the interest and welfare of the public. There are other considerations which in other situations would have you compare the peculiarities of employment in regard to other trades or professions, but again, because of the unique nature of the fire profession, it really doesn't necessarily apply. You wouldn't be comparing the, for example, the hazards of employment of a firefighter with the hazards of employment of, say, somebody working at Largo golf course cutting grass or something like that. But in other instances it might apply. So those are the kinds of things to keep in mind as the different sides make their presentations. As I understand it, there is no limitation other than consideration for everyone. in terms of time for your presentations. And, you know, I don't want to usurp the chair's authority, but if you guys are ready to make your presentation, I think that the board is ready to hear the presentations.
We are ready.
I'm Robert McKee, I'm an attorney.
Come on. Hey, here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Robert McKee, I'm an attorney. I've represented firefighters and by extension families of firefighters throughout the Tampa Bay area for the past 45 years. It's my privilege to address you tonight on behalf of the members of IAFF Local 5374. Mr. Albinson, Commissioner Albinson, you mentioned that.
I'm not a commissioner, I'm the general counsel.
General counsel, we had 3 commissioners?
4.
Who's the
Sorry.
I saw you hiding back there. We agreed in advance that we would take roughly a half hour aside, so we set aside an hour. I hope to be able to keep to that. As your counsel just indicated, the purpose of us being here tonight is the union and the fire chief were unable to come to an agreement regarding the compensation to be paid to the members of the bargaining unit during the final year of their existing contract. The fire chief declared an impasse, and according to Florida law, it's now up to you as the governing body to decide how this is going to be resolved. What is going to be the outcome for the final year of this contract? The contract expires September 30th. They'll be at the bargaining table shortly to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement. Now, our position tonight is simple. We're asking you to impose the pay increase that the chief initially agreed to at the table, and if I may, I will pass out a copy of the chief's proposal. During negotiations for the last year of the collective bargaining agreement, the chief proposed that firefighters would receive a 5% wage increase, lieutenants would receive a 4% wage increase, and the district chiefs would receive a 3% pay increase. That was fine with the bargaining team. However, before they could take it back for ratification by the entire body, the chief rescinded that proposal. We're still more than willing to accept that tonight if you should see fit to make that determination. But we also have a proposal B. And our proposal B is something that we believe makes sense for all parties. And it should be especially appealing to you folks who are charged with the responsibility of overseeing the finances for this organization. And our plan B is to leave things as they are. Very simply, we will give up a pay increase for this last year of this existing collective bargaining agreement, and we will address that along with a myriad of other issues that will be discussed at the bargaining table when the parties meet and begin to bargain for a successor collective bargaining agreement. So it will not cost you folks a nickel for this last year of the contract, it won't cost the taxpayers any additional money. It makes sense. And I have to believe that when you make a proposal that makes absolute sense, that's a proposal that you folks should seriously consider. The collective bargaining agreement, and I know you're familiar with it, has a number of moving parts. We expect that the chief is going to come up and ask you to do a lot of things tonight that really should be put on hold until the parties can sit down and negotiate the successor agreement. Because by proposing these things, or by adopting these things, or implementing these things tonight, it will have a dramatic effect on a dozen or so of the provisions in the collective bargaining agreement that have yet to be negotiated. So I'm going to ask you to engage in some forbearance in terms of agreeing to implement these drastic changes that we expect the chief is going to propose to you, because there's no hurry, there's no crisis here, there's no need to impose these things tonight. What makes sense is to let the parties sit down and work through these things. And in the meantime, you get a pass. You get a pass. It's a free pass. It's a year without an increase. That makes sense to me. It makes sense to the men and women that I represent. And it should make sense to you folks who are here to, among other things, make sure that the taxpayers' dollars are well spent. And the taxpayers' dollars are well spent when they're not being spent. So I'm going to reserve the balance of my time because I want to come back up and speak to you, and I may have the locals president address you as well. After we hear from the chief, and you'll get to see the broad scope of the things that the chief wants you to impose tonight, which frankly, they really need to wait until the parties can sit down and negotiate the successor agreement. I thank you for your attention. If anybody has any questions, I'll be back up here and I will answer all of your questions when I come back from my rebuttal. Thank you very much.
Ready?
Or if you don't mind, I'd like to sit or stand here so that people in the audience can see me and hear me. Can you hear me okay?
You probably can take the mic with you.
Okay.
Chief, you probably take the mic with you.
I'll stand up.
Just don't want to have my back to you all. Deputy Chief Swap, he's handing out a couple of things that I want to address tonight. And one is the current pay plan, and one is the proposed pay plan. And another one is the hours worked by all of our firefighters since October 1st until this last Friday, pulled out of our Vector Solutions. And I'm going to identify what the exact problem is and how we got to where we are today. Okay? So, can we get that turned? So what Mr. McKee had said, leaving things as they are, and that imposing what we're going to present doesn't make sense for our firefighters, but I'm going to tell you it makes absolute sense for our firefighters. A lot of misinformation has been put out there recently when it comes to hearing 52-hour work week. And the whole intention of it is to fix what has been broken. Our firefighters do not get afforded the luxury of having 48 hours off. They're getting constantly mandated for overtime. And it's not right. They need to be home and be able to schedule their time off and have breaks from work. Okay, and that's the whole intent. I'm going to go through everything with you. Slide by slide, perfect. I can stand over here. The way I can address you, and if I have my back, no disrespect, no, but I want to be able to address everybody. All right? So I want to tell you the history on the time off and the wages here in this department. So for many years, before we got the proper funding mechanism in place, our firefighters, our senior firefighters especially, not the newer personnel, but they weren't able to be given raises. There was no money to be given. So they were given time off. So much time off that they couldn't even use it, right? It was a benefit on paper, right? And that did not allow for us to provide the proper services to the public. We never had enough people on duty. As a result, all the brand new employees and newer employees were being forced to work so much overtime. The senior employees were getting paid for holidays that only the junior employees worked. And we've been working over the last few years to change that, right? So in the last few years, we added holiday time, where every employee that works a holiday gets 12 additional hours. We did some rollback of vacation hours because there were simply too many overtime. For a 12% wage increase, we added longevity as a percentage, not just a one-time check. We added acting, lieutenant pay, driver pay as a percentage, where every single person that's certified gets paid. It's not just seat pay like at other agencies. So we did have a wage reopener that was built into the contract. And we wanted to look at all of the things that affect wages, because 100%, this entire team, we want our firefighters to have the best of everything, sincerely. And this really does show exactly what the problem is, and I hope that you can listen and see with open ears and open eyes. So when we started negotiations a while back, that for a wage reopener was one of the contract articles, article number 24, and it specifically says wages, but that other articles in the contract can be negotiated to affect the wage adjustments. And the wages have to do with hours of work. That's clear, right? So the issues that were brought forward by this team over here were retention and recruitment. We don't have retention problems, okay? We don't have recruitment problems. I have one vacancy now due to lieutenant retiring last week. One vacancy. We don't have recruitment problems, but if we don't fix this, we are going to have recruitment problems. And given the firefighters 5%, doesn't do anything for the firefighters. It doesn't get them home with their families, okay? The other issue was too much overtime being forced on the members and not enough disparity in pay for the paramedics, meaning I have two firefighters who go to paramedic school, and one gets a $3,000 increase, and the other one gets a $7,000 increase, right? There's too much disparity across the board. So I proposed even everybody gets $10,000, right? So I have a firefighter going to paramedic school now, he's in his 4th year. On the old pay scale, he would have got about a $4,000 raise, right? Now he's getting $10,000. He's going to school with somebody who's been here longer. That person would have got $7,000 raise. Now he's getting $10,000 raise, right? So the inherent problem is the lack of hours that are worked, okay, which causes our firefighters to have to work ridiculous amounts of overtime. And if I tell you, as of today, as of Friday, July 12th, there's 7,764 overtime hours with a projection of 11,074 overtime hours that our firefighters have to work, because the hours aren't being put in as their regular hours. Okay? And I'll show you why. So the first proposal that came from the union was straight across 20% increase to the firefighter paramedics and 15% increase to the EMTs. That's what they brought to the table. But they said these were the problems, right? So what did that proposal do? 20% and 15%? Well, it bankrupts the district. Okay? Within 7 years, it bankrupts the district. And I showed them that. I spelled it out for them. The problem is We need to get rid of the overtime, allow the firefighter to have more time off, and make more money. Okay? It bankrupts us in 7 years we're under the minimum, 8 years we're negative, so in about 5 years, we'd be making plans to lay people off, stop building fire stations, stop ordering fire trucks, because we won't be here if we go with this plan. And it doesn't solve any of the problems that was expressed by this team, right? It didn't change the overtime issue. It didn't change the disparity in the paramedic pay, okay? So what did the union say to that? We'll just go back to the voters in 7 years and ask for a tax increase. Well, that's not the union's right or choice or say. That's up to the board. And if you weren't here a few years ago when we went to the community and the taxpayers, we spelled out a 20-year plan. That's what passed the referendum. And we're sticking to that 20-year plan, right? The next proposal was very similar. It was 10% across the board. 48-hour work week, staying on a 48-hour work week. Wage increase at 3%. Continuing with no sweat hours required. And a $10,000 to $15,000 paramedic incentive, which they meant the newer paramedics were getting $7,500. The senior guys were getting $15,000. Disparity again, okay? So we showed them what does that look like for the district, okay? Well, same thing, it bankrupts the district, only it does it in 10 years. And the same thing, they brought it back. The starting salary and paramedic pay are not high enough. Well, if their proposal was possible, they would put them in the top, right? Too much overtime being forced on the members, it doesn't change the overtime. They're just going to be making more money. They're going to be working the same amount of overtime hours and beating themselves up, right? Living unhealthy lifestyles. That's not what we want for them. And it didn't do anything with the disparity. It helped it a little bit, but it was still across the board, 7,500 to 15,000. That's disparity. And the same feedback. Question was asked, why can't we go back to the voters? Because that's not what we're doing. Okay? We went and put out a referendum, went to the voters, laid out a 20-year plan, showed them exactly what we're doing with money, and now you expect that we're going to go back and go, excuse me, Miss Resident, Mr. Resident, we misspent all the money that you gave us, but give us some more, and we won't misspend it this time, right? No chance. The board is never going to allow that. I know that. That's why I didn't bring this back to the board. It's not possible. We just got out of this. We were going to be bankrupt before I got here. We were on the road to bankruptcy in 2027, okay? And now we're here forever. And we need to make sure we're here forever, okay? So I gave a proposal to the union, which solved the retention and recruitment issue, it solved the overtime issue, and it solved the disparity in pay issue voiced for the paramedics. It was actually more money than they brought, okay? 23% for their starting pay. Okay, now that's not across the board, that's not possible, right? But EMT starting pay was 15.6%, paramedic starting pay 23.8%. And I'm going to show you, just like we're going to compare to like size and similar departments, where we're at and where we need to be. Okay? Currently, the department has a 48-hour work week, right? That's what it's called. It's not a 48-hour work week, that's just what it's called. That just means you get a Kelly day every 3 weeks. Every 21 days you get an extra day off, right? Well, this has caused a lot of problems for us because in order for us to give more money, we need more hours. If you look at the spreadsheet that has some yellow on it, you'll see we have firefighters that work 26 hours a week. We have firefighters that work 33 hours a week average, right? That's a 48-hour work week. And then our newer people, our newer personnel, they work the most, and they're making the least amount of money, right? That's not right. So our proposal puts our firefighter wages near the top wages in the county, okay? I've said it before, I said it 100 times. It puts us at the top in the county, and I always say exclusive of St. Pete. but we're not CP. We're not a huge municipality with multiple revenue sources. We're an independent fire district. Okay? We have a user fee, we have ad valorem tax now, and we have EMS funding. That's it. Okay? We spend that, we don't have anywhere to go. Other agencies, municipalities, they overspend, they take it from the police department or from another department or somewhere else. We don't have that luxury. Okay? It gives stability to the budget, and it's going to assure the firefighters enjoy their 48 hours off. Okay? Right now you go to work, and a lot of times you're getting mandatory overtime. That really is not a good feeling. You don't know you're going to work, you don't know if you're there for 24 hours or 48 hours. With the change of work hours, it's going to reduce the overtime. Because right now we're always at minimum staffing. Anytime somebody's out, it's overtime. But changing the work hours to a 52-hour work week, and it's not, you're not working 52 hours work week. You can see the average firefighter on a 48-hour work week works 40 hours. Okay? Because 48-hour work week is 2,496 hours. But now you subtract your vacation time, you subtract your sick time, and any other reason you need to be off from work, right? So the new scale is 2704. It's 208 hours. It's 4 hours a week more, but it's going to allow the firefighters to have more time off at home. They're actually going to work less for more money. A lot more money. More money than the 8 shifts of overtime. So I've heard that. Well, we're going to have to work 8 more shifts. Well, in theory, yes. Because you go from a 6-week Kelly day to a 3-week Kelly day, you work 8 more shifts. But the 8, 10, and 12 overtime shifts that you're working anyways are going away. They're going to go away. Now, I'll show you exactly, down to the number, exactly why it happens, right? It's going to reduce the overtime that they're constantly being made to work. They're going to have better health. They're going to know what their schedule is. They're going to know I'm here 24 hours. And the likelihood of overtime is going to be very small. We have a plan in place. There's things that are missing that we're going to put into place to assure that in about 1 year from now, barring any unforeseen circumstances, the overtime will be minimal. It will absolutely be minimal. So you have this, right? And I'm going to show you. You can look. Commissioners, you have this proposed pay scale. And I want to go over it with you. On the left-hand side is the current pay plan. Okay? Firefighter EMT starting out at $45,000. Would you like one? Okay. Can you use your cards again? Can you bring one? Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. And the yellow one? Do you have the yellow? There you go. Here you go, Patrick. So I'll wait till you get those. But on the left side is the current pay plan. And I'm going to show you, let me see. Okay. I'm going to show you where we're at in the county, countywide. Okay. More, please. So this is starting firefighter paramedic wages by department. Okay. This is where we're at right now. All these fire departments, this is where we're at. The new pay plan puts us up here. Okay, that's why I say not the top in the county, okay, but near the top. And some of these have changed or are going to change because they're under negotiations as well. But this was submitted by all the fire chiefs in the county on a 2024 salary study. That's where this information came from. So right now, this is where the starting paramedic is. That's recruitment and retention problems, right? When other departments are offering $63,000 and we're offering $50,000. And I already heard the argument, well, people don't care because we have Kelly days. Well, I'll tell you, everybody knows when the ERBs just changed and they got giant things coming in wages. They have no Kelly days, none, and over 40 applicants of firefighter paramedics. Okay? It's not about the Kelly days necessarily. Okay, so the new proposal puts them near the top in the entire county. Okay. We did a lot of things with the pay scale. If you look on the left side, that was the current plan. And let's look at the second row where it says firefighter paramedic. Starting salary $50,883. and they cap out after 8 years, $75,000. That doesn't compare. With the new pay scale, if you slide your finger across, right, that same top out of $75,000, $88,000, and then we added a few steps in there, right? So the wages have really gone up, which increases their long-term pension benefits. I showed you this at our last presentation. Over a 30-year retirement, top firefighter paramedic pay, over a 30-year retirement, God willing, right? Increase of $450,000 additional in your pockets, in your family's pockets. Okay, increase for lieutenant, $353,000. Increase for a district chief, $468,000. Okay, that's a huge benefit for your family. And we are moving in the best direction. Okay, 21 months ago, before this contract, we started doing things where the employees got 12% total, 8% and 4%, and we added in incentive pays that are percentages added into their salaries. Okay, the top firefighter EMT was $60,000, right? Now with everything we put in there in the new proposal, that same firefighter, $87,000. 21 months later, $87,000. And how are we doing it? Because we are spending some of the district's money, but we're also recouping a lot of the money that we're spending on overtime to give a stable schedule. So when I see, 52-hour work week, chief wants us to work more. It's not on top of what you're doing already. You're working ridiculous amounts of overtime. We're trying to get rid of that, okay? I can tell you, we're gonna have 11,000 hours of overtime because of the schedule, okay? And by asking us to go to a 52-hour work week, that's 8,112 hours that we recoup. This budget season, I'm going to ask my board to add one more position, okay? We're going to add a needed position of a training chief, which is going to extremely limit or reduce the overtime budget. Because my district chiefs have been having to cover. They've been having to cover because we don't have people to work. I'll tell you, 4th of July, we had to take an engine out of service and go into a rescue because we had no firefighters able to work, right? Just 2 days ago, same situation. And DC Best had to get bumped down to a lieutenant, and Chief Carpenter, Chief Stoneberg, they came in and worked as DCs because we had nobody to work. Same thing happened to John Weber. He had to get mandatory overtime going into his Kelly Day period, but out of the 29 employees that were off duty, not one of them could fit the role or was available. So he had to get mandatory. So we're trying to reduce all those things, okay? And the overall problem that has to be addressed is the current hours don't allow for the district to provide the minimum staffing required to keep our emergency services without causing continuous overtime, right? Everybody has a phone, right? Everybody has a phone? All right. You want to see collective calculators? I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is. And we've been working on it. This problem was a lot worse 2 years ago. A lot worse. So our minimum staffing is 10 people, right? We have to have 10 people on duty every day. Now, assume that any firefighter could do anybody's job, right? Firefighter could do lieutenant's job, firefighter can do district chief's job, everybody's a paramedic, right? Which is not the case. And if you see in the column there, you see what their ranks are and their acting capabilities, right? 10 people, 24 hours a day, every day of the year is 8,760 hours that we need to provide the minimum service, the minimum. So we have 39 people, right? 87,600 divided by 39, divided by 52 weeks a year. On average, everybody needs to work 43 hours a week, okay? 43. And that's an average. And I'll tell you, look at your yellow, your handout here. You guys have it, right? If you look at the yellow bar across, I'll tell you, 64% of the people that work here do not work 43 hours a week without overtime. And even with overtime, still 20% of the people don't work 43 hours a week. And it's our most senior guys. So if you look at the top, and this is public record, I'm not going to call your name out now, but we have people that work 33 hours a week. We need you 43, you work 33, so our new guys that are at the bottom, our junior guys, they're the ones working 47 hours a week. 14 hours a week more than a senior guy, and making half the money. And then not everybody can do everybody's job. So when the guys who are, and gals who are drivers or lieutenants or acting DCs aren't here, we don't have people to put into those roles, right? So it's a scheduling problem. You go add more people. Adding more people doesn't solve the problem, because if you look at the bottom of the yellow, these are all of our new people listed on the bottom, right? With the exception of Lieutenant Wilfong. They work the most hours, but they can't drive a fire truck. They're not paramedics yet. They can't be acting lieutenants. So what does adding more firefighters do, right? So getting able to have 204 hours per person, 4 hours a week, gives you 8,000 hours. We're going to ask for additional personnel, 1 in October. And then I told you, we're going to hire more firefighters. We put in for a SAFER grant, we're hiring 7 if we get the SAFER grant. If we don't, it's a grant funded by the county that we don't have to pay for those employees for 3 years. If we don't, we're going to ask the board to add 3 more firefighters mid-year. That mid-year is another 4,000 hours, plus the elimination of the DC overtime. That's 13,000 hours. There's going to be literally no overtime, which means you get to enjoy your time off at home. Okay? How many times you have to miss your family's functions because you have to work overtime? But I have employees that are working 28 hours a week. The top paid people in the department. 28 hours a week. That's the problem. So, to look at the Kelly days, I know that's why I gave you the printout, but if you go, I don't know if there's a page missing on there, but if you look at the Pinellas County fire departments that have Kelly days, okay, so look at the independent districts, right? We're an independent district. Us, Palm Harbor, Leland, and East Lake. We have a Kelly day every 3 weeks. Palm Harbor, they don't have Kelly days. They're going to a Kelly day, right? But it's not a 14th shift Kelly day. I believe it's a 7th, don't quote me, but I believe it's a 17th shift Kelly day is what they're looking at. Leland, no Kelly days. And East Lake, but the time I mean, they're going to, or they've gone to, during negotiations, a Kelly day every 6 weeks. So of the independent districts, we're the only one that has a Kelly day every 3 weeks. Of municipalities, the only municipality that has a Kelly day every 3 weeks is St. Petersburg. And I'm quite sure they didn't start on day 1 with 3-week Kelly days. Largo doesn't have them every 3 weeks. Pinellas Park just got Kelly days every 6 weeks. None of these departments, none of the rest of the county have Kelly days. We have only one, okay? That have a 3-week Kelly day. That's an independent special district. So when we presented this to the union, we had the wage opener originally began last July, okay? And I think there's a typo in the CBA that says July of 2024, but we started July of 2023. That got postponed at their request because the ad valorem money was coming in and we wanted to see what it was all about. So we postponed it. We had union negotiation meetings on January 17th, February 1st, January 29th. Okay, there were no other proposals brought to the table by the union. None. Yes, you have anything different? Nope. Right? We did have a proposal prior to getting so deep into this that we presented, and sorry, Mr. McGee, you're wrong. It wasn't agreed upon, okay? It wasn't even responded upon when, I'm sorry?
It was your proposal.
Yes, it was, right? But after looking so deep, that doesn't solve the problem. It just gives them 3% more. It still has them working an erratic shift, right? And what does 3% do? It certainly doesn't put us at the top of the salary scale, right? And now we have retention problems, okay? Because who's gonna come over here for $50,000 when a bunch of other departments are paying 58, 59, 60, 61. We're offering 63, right? That's pretty good. Starting. And the reason that we went to Impasse, the actual reason that we went to Impasse, not that we couldn't come to an agreement, because we were working on things going back and forth. We had our final meeting set up for May 17th. I think it might have been scheduled for here. And getting some clarification, I think I met with Fink and Greg, right? I think I did. Just to get some clarification, not negotiating over things. And I wanted to clarify that at Friday's meeting, we're going to come to a tentative agreement. We're going to TA things, right? And an email was sent that said, well, we're not going to TA anything. I mean, I don't want to misspoke, but let me get it. I won't read the whole one, but we do not want to discuss a tentative agreement or any signing of a tentative agreement today or at the negotiation session on Friday, May 17th. We will wait to see how the vote results and move forward from that, right? You can't do that, okay? Collective bargaining law says that an agreement, a verbal agreement, must be reduced to writing, then brought to the membership. So you know what you're voting on. Otherwise, what am I voting on? I'm voting on hearsay, what they told me. It's also supposed to be posted where you vote, right? You're supposed to have ample opportunity to read, right? So if there's no tentative agreement, what are you voting on? And you can't vote. You can't, and that's why we got to Impasse, okay? I didn't declare Impasse. Our attorney, Tom Gonzalez, did, based on Florida state statutes, okay? But I'm going to give you some examples. I don't know how much time I used. I know I talked. How much time? So if you look at the pay scale, right, which is this green one, or it's actually white, but it's got green on there, and you see the current pay plan versus the proposed pay plan, okay? To give an example, I have somebody who is a firefighter EMT making $53,000, right, in his 4th year. He's going to be a paramedic soon, and he would go to almost $59,000, a $6,000 raise by becoming a paramedic, right? Under the new pay plan, that same employee goes to $71,000, okay? An $18,000 increase. Now, I'll tell you, an $18,000 increase for anybody is substantial, right? Is that worth working 4 more hours a week? That's what you could have voted on, okay? I'll tell you the same thing, look all the way down the scale. We have our senior paramedics that are making $90,000, right? You got one, you've been stuck at $90,000 for a couple years now, right? Under the new pay scale, you right away go to 100, but you're not stuck at 100, you go to almost 106. On top of that, there's incentives, right? You get another 1% if you're an acting DC, if you're an acting lieutenant, you get 1% for being a driver, another 1% for being a driver. That all go into your pension, okay? A lot of money. It's a lot of money. There's also, just for coming to work, anywhere from $2,300 to $4,400 overtime dollars that you get just for coming to work and working a 52-hour work week. Now, if you come to work and you work when you're supposed to work, every 3rd paycheck, you get 9 hours of overtime. Potentially get 78 hours of overtime just for coming to work. So take the same person who was going to get a $6,000 raise, now going to get an $18,000 raise, and add $3,000 on top of that, $21,000 raise. for working 4 more hours a week. Okay? But I'll tell you, this was never brought to the table to be voted on. A lot of membership had no idea. They had never seen the pay plan, you know? They didn't have a voice, or maybe felt like they didn't have a voice. But that's why we're here. Should have been tentative agreement, should have been brought back to everybody. I know I've heard, we've all heard in the fire service that you guys, you shouldn't have a say. That's absolutely wrong. If you work here, you have the same say. If you're here on day 1, or if you're in your 30th year, you have the same say, because you're going to be here for 30 years, hopefully. Right? Everybody gets a vote. So by going to a 52-hour work week, you can see on the yellow, on the one with the yellow, it's called a 48-hour work week that they're on now. They don't work 48 hours a week. That's not how it goes. You can see they work 42, 41, 40, right? I said everybody needs to work 43. So we go from 48 to 52, it's 4 more hours. We have the minimum staffing. We have extra people on duty, okay? There's not mandatory overtime. So we have 13 people on shift, and then I'll wrap up. There's 13 people on shift. You have 2 people on Kelly Day. 1 is on vacation. That leaves 10 people on shift. That's minimum staffing. Means anytime someone's hurt, anytime somebody calls in sick, anytime somebody can't be at work, somebody else is being made to stay and work overtime. With the new proposal, there's 1 person on Kelly Day, 1 person on vacation, you have 11 people on duty, minimum is 10, you have 1 extra person. Okay, so when somebody calls in sick, okay, your loved one gets to still go home because there's an extra person. And that's the huge difference. So, if you're being told that my administrative team want your family members to work more on top of what they're working, that's absolutely not true. And I just showed it to you. Okay, we want them to work less. I want all of our firefighters to work the least amount of hours possible, providing the best service to our community and making the most amount of money I can possibly give them while maintaining responsibility to our community, our budget, and our taxpayers. And that's what this does. Okay? Newer personnel, 23% increase. Okay? I'm going to wrap it up. I know there's a lot more that I could say. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if there are any. But, all right. Thank you.
Told you to be back. That was a very impressive presentation. A lot of grist for the collective bargaining bill. It's a lot to digest. Can you honestly say that you understood and agreed with all of the chief's facts and figures that he just spent 35 minutes putting up there on the projector? Can you honestly say that? The union is happy to discuss these proposals. More than happy to, and I'm sure that there are many of these proposals that the union and the chief can agree upon. But the chief doesn't want that. He doesn't want to discuss these things. He wants to come here tonight and give you a lot of charts, a lot of facts, a lot of figures, a lot of projections. If we don't do this, we're going to be bankrupt in 7 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let the parties go back to the bargaining table. That's where these things have to be resolved. It's unfair to you to come in here and expect you to digest all of this and to make a decision with regard to this being the best path forward, and to cut these folks out from having a voice in it. The chief is absolutely right that there's an issue with overtime. A lot of money's being spent on overtime. The union agrees. The union agrees with that. But you know what? This may surprise you. The union has ideas about how to address that, how to rein it in, how to fix it. The chief doesn't want you to hear from the union about that. The chief wants you to do a cram down. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is the best thing. Agree with me. Do it all tonight. Forget about these folks here. Forget about them having a voice in this thing. The chief made the proposal B that I gave to you folks. He made a big show at the beginning about the union's initial proposal. Oh my God, they made this proposal. It was pie in the sky. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? How many of you have ever negotiated a contract? You always start high, give yourself room to bargain down, and that's all that the union was doing. And as it turns out, the union is willing, at least for the balance of this present contract, to accept the chief's proposal B, or if you don't want to do that, the union's happy just to leave the status quo. Send these folks back to the bargaining table to talk about all of these issues. All of them. We're ready to do that. Did the chief believe that he was leading you down the road to bankruptcy by proposing pay increases for the final year of this contract? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, throwing those words around are just a scare tactic, and they're meant to inflame you and to get you to make a decision that perhaps you are not in the best position to make tonight. So I will reiterate the position that we presented in my initial presentation. Proposal B is fine with us. We never had an opportunity to formally ratify it because an impasse was declared. But guess what? If that is, in your view, in any way unfair or dangerous or leading us down the road to bankruptcy, we'll accept the status quo. Send these folks back to the bargaining table where all of this belongs. It doesn't belong here. It's not fair to have this all dumped in your lap. All 35 minutes of charts and facts and figures and projections and comparisons. It's not the way it should be done. So I'm asking you again in terms of resolving this impasse, either to impose the chief's prior proposal that he rescinded, or if you're not prepared to do that, and we'll understand and accept that, maintain the status quo and let the parties bargain over the terms and conditions of employment, which includes the problem with overtime, which includes the pay scale, which includes comparators to other similar organizations in the Tampa Bay area. I really appreciate your time. I know this isn't an easy job for you folks, but we know that we're confident that you'll give it your best effort to get this thing resolved. Thank you so much.
All right, I get a couple minutes to go over what Mr. McGee said. So, he said that the union had ideas, and I'll tell you, they never brought anything else back to the table. Never. No other ideas, other than more money. As far as showing it bankrupt, it's not a scare tactic. We're transparent. You can see our books anytime. Anytime. Anybody can. Actually, it's public record. Anybody want to come see our books? Let us know. Okay? We get audited every year, and I'm accountable for every single dollar. Aaron's accountable for every single dollar, and we know where it goes, we know how it's spent, and we know what needs to be spent on there. Status quo? Absolutely not. Because a few people,
I'm not going to say any names, but I'll tell you, the few people that are so boisterous about this being a bad deal are at the top of this chart. Is this a bad deal? Maybe for you, because now you actually have to work this as a full-time professional job. And the personnel that are having to pick up the slack can have normal lives. Is it status quo? Okay, 3, 4, 5%? No, because then we have retention problems. Okay? We put this into effect the first pay period in August. Okay? Personnel have been missing out. These younger guys have been missing out on $1,000 a month. in their pockets where they can buy a house maybe now with their families and all their babies that are here. They can move out of their mom's house, right? They can do the things and start having a life for themselves. Okay? Status quo? No. All the other things that need to be negotiated?
Absolutely. We do that at the end of this next contract. Okay, everything else that needs to be in here is for the best of the organization. Okay, talk about scare tactics and all that. Don't ever do that with me. I'm telling you, I am transparent, and everything I say is fact. As far as starting high and going low, I don't do that. I said from the minute I got here, when I tell my board that I need 5 pencils, I get 5 pencils. Because I don't tell my board I need 10, hoping they'll negotiate and give me 5. I asked for what I need. And I told the entire body, I'm giving you the maximum I can possibly give, right? From day one. In fact, I overextended just a little bit because I didn't account for the couple of $1,000s of built-in overtime. Right? It's another $100,000, $120,000 I didn't account for. So ladies and gentlemen, everything else, we'll negotiate when the contract comes fully open, because there's a lot of changes that need to be made for the good of the organization, for the future of the district. And the people that work here deserve it. Okay? Doesn't deserve a 5% raise. He deserves an $18,000 raise. Okay? And that's what they all deserve. They deserve the opportunity to have voted on that. Okay? It was a violation of collective bargaining law. And that's why we're here. Thank you.
Could, 10 minutes? 7:10, just a short break, everybody gets to use the restrooms, get a drink, stretch your legs. Okay, you pass me. So
I think what we've decided here is to allow each side, the union and then the district, to summarize their proposals to the board so that it's very clear as to exactly what each side is asking the board to accept or reject.
We presented 2 options. Option number 1 is to impose the chief's proposal B. Option number 2 is simply to maintain the status quo and not do any wage increases and allow the parties to bargain over wages and other terms and conditions of employment when they sit down to negotiate the successor contract.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then, Chief, if you could summarize the district's proposal.
So the district's proposal is that we move to the new pay scale, the 52-hour work week. And
Move with 52-hour work week, meaning the 3 week.
6-week Kelly days,
6-week
moving
Kelly
to
day,
the new
sorry.
pay scale, as outlined in the presentation. That everybody has.
All right, so if I can just let the board know, there's a few ways to go here, but I think at this point the chair is going to see if there's anybody from the public who wants to make comments. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We'll open the floor up. Anyone has a comment, we'll keep it, hopefully if you could keep it to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Michael Lewis, 8138 Concord Court, live in Seminole. And I am thankful that we have Station 28 as our first new engine or crew to my neighborhood. So I'll start out by saying that Pinellas Suncoast used to be one of the top departments in the county to work for. And I know this because 15 years ago I was looking at departments to work for, and Pinellas Suncoast was one of them that was at the top of the list. I now work for somewhere else, and if I was looking for a job today, Pinellas Suncoast would be at the very bottom of the need. So, you know, the chief has said a lot. And I can tell you right off the bat, I'm a union officer. I negotiate several contracts, and some of what the chief said was just not true. It was not factually true. So, but that's just talking about some of the facts that he pulled out of contracts, supposedly, or pulled out of thin air, I don't know, he talks a lot. So, anyways, you can't say that people are gonna work less if you're not hiring employees. Like, you still have to cover those hours. You're not hiring any additional employees to cover hours. So instead, all of your firefighters are gonna be working more straight time hours and less overtime hours. It's pretty simple. Like, I don't know how you can say over and over, you're gonna work less, you're gonna be home with your family. You're not, you're still gonna work the same amount, it's just gonna be straight time. So, in addition, the fact that he puts people on here, blasts them in public for allegedly working 17 hours, 36 hours a week, I don't even have to know these employees to know that they're probably injured, their wife was probably sick, they used vacation, they took, you know, FMLA, who knows? But you have basically all of your employees are working 42 or more on a 48-hour work week. What does your chief work? He probably gets 300 hours of sick leave and vacation a year. Subtract that 300 from his 2,080 hours that he works. So now he's working, what, 34 hours a week? 33?
Sir, you're bringing up facts again. You're criticizing.
And I have the right to say what I want. This is public comment, so you can dispute it if you'd like.
Keep it
So
civil, please.
okay, I don't understand how that's not civil. I didn't.
No, you can't.
Okay.
May I just say, if you're going to say that the facts are incorrect, then you need to support that in some way.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Would you like a copy of Loman's contract? Because he said Loman does not have an R day, and they do. They have a 6-week Kelly Day or R day. So, like you want that? I can go. I'll email it to you right now. What's your email? So, I mean, so here's the
Please
thing.
finish up.
It's a three minute.
Yes.
Okay, how much time do I have left?
You're already over. But
Does that include the time that you took from me, or no? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Nick Stocco, President of Tampa Firefighters Local 754. I represent the firefighters over in the city of Tampa, 750 plus firefighters. Thank you all for your time today. I'll be brief and address the council's directly. Briefly, we heard just through this hearing that management wanted healthier employees, wanted to be able to afford their employees to be home more with their families to take care of their kids. I have a tough time understanding that when the proposal is going to increase their minimum regularly scheduled hours from 48 to 52. That doesn't make any sense to me. In regards to wages, I'm looking at this chart here and I see 45,841 as the starting firefighter EMT. Over in Tampa, it's 57,657. Our starting firefighter paramedic makes 63,822. The highest salary on this is a district chief paramedic at 100,000. Our firefighters make more than that. Our topped out firefighter is 109,647. Starting base salary. That's tough to compete with. And I can thank our local government, our council, and our mayor for putting us in that position. We would hope that you all would be able to do the same with these folks here. looking at that slide up there, that was 3 to 5 sessions of negotiations. We had 27. There's a way to get it done before you go into the public space, and that's laying the sides, negotiate and bargain over a table. These individuals here were elected by their membership to represent them. Therefore, they have the best interest of their members when bringing something back to them, such as a proposal. So receiving a proposal and then it being taken away from them, I could understand why there might be some difficulties at the table. But if the union's wanting the individuals to go back to the table, that sounds like a pretty good option. Because option B, or management's proposal, is a whole lot of information to put on this council. And I understand that by the questions that I heard. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for to come up here, but to strongly consider that we are standing in solidarity with the union. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Taking the baby to the bathroom.
I suppose that's a form of public comment. Anybody else? This is the time, folks. Now you can open it up to the board discussion.
All right. So I understand we decide between the union's two positions, two options, or adopt the new proposed salary figures with a 6-week calendar. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let me just ask Mr. Gonzalez, there are no other options, is that right?
The board?
Right.
Oh, no, the board could take whatever action they think to be in the best interest of the public, including the public employees.
Okay.
So it's up to them.
And when will negotiation for the new contract, not this contract, the next, when this contract is finished, the new one takes place for the winter? So this is just from now until January?
No, the current CBA collective bargaining agreement concludes at the end of September, the last day of September 2025.
A little over a year.
Chief Davidson, do you oppose the idea of leaving the contract where it is and starting over again when the time is right, and there's no why?
Okay, so I do oppose that, because that's when we're gonna have issues, okay? We have excellent employees, okay? Look at our last 6 hires that we had. We're so lucky, and all of our hires, okay? But the last 6, top-notch employees, all of them. If we don't pay them what they need to be paid, they're going to leave, okay? And now we have an issue. Now you're really gonna have overtime problem, and who's gonna take their place, okay? To leave things the way they are and have a firefighter with a young family, many children that I see here, getting 5% on top of $45,000, and he's working 40% more hours than the guy who works as a part-time job, making $80,000. We need to make sure we keep our current employees. That if we don't raise the starting salary and adjust our employees that have been here, all of them, but specifically the ones that have been here 1 through 5, 6 years, they are going to go somewhere else. And we're not going to be able to replace them. Now we're going to have big issues.
Do you think that the fact that the union is telling you that they're willing to wait until the contract is over and bargaining starts again, do you think that that's also a message that they understand what they're getting until then, and there's not going to be a large exodus? Because they all know what they're getting, right? They're agreeing not to take a pay raise. Folks that just got hired knew what the pay structure was. They understood the collective bargaining agreement. So I guess I'm just not understanding where the signs are on that exodus. If they're saying right now they don't want to waive a raise, and we're going to hold tight and cross the line.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not going to speak for the union, but I'll tell you, that's not what the employees are saying. There's no way for them to know that. It's the couple of people that are speaking up very loudly. We have new employees that are afraid to speak up, new employees that have never seen this information, new employees that are afraid to raise their hands for what they want, new employees that have been told they shouldn't have a voice because they haven't been here long enough, and they deserve to take this back. You can't speak and say what everybody wants. You have no idea. You've never taken this back. You're assuming.
What are the working hours of the departments on there?
So back on there, and Mr. Union, I didn't get your name.
Mine.
No, the gentleman behind you.
Michael Lewis.
Hey, Michael. So you're absolutely correct. I did make a mistake on the thing there. We actually took a note because Chief Carpenez caught that. So that wasn't deception or anything. Chief Carpenez caught that. And if any of the salaries had changed, that's off the 2024. We've been doing this a while.
I didn't say it was deception, I just said it was wrong.
Yeah. No, we agree with that. So thanks for pointing out.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You talked a lot, I don't know if all of it was true, but that at least was wrong.
So what's the question again? Can you say that?
Well, I was asking, you're talking about like 48 hours, 52
Yeah.
hours. I'm
So-
asking what the departments.
So, what Attorney Allen said, we have to compare ourselves to like-sized and similar departments, right? I mean, we're an independent district of 39 operational employees. We don't have 700 in Tampa, right? We have different funding mechanisms than a big city does, right? So we can't offer that. But I'll tell you, in the recent postings that we've had at what our salary is now, 0 paramedic applications. 0. We've had some good EMTs apply. We have some people that we're interviewing that are in paramedic school. 0 applications. Okay? With your beats, like size and similar department, right? 56-hour work week, no Kelly days whatsoever. 40 paramedic applicants, right? Because they're paying, I don't want to say, but and that's what's talked about. They're like getting ready to be paid the highest amongst this county, but they have 0 Kelly days, and they also don't get the vacation time that our employees get, right? Like size and similar. St. Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your senior guys get 10 days of vacation after 20 years, right? That's what I read at the time. Our guys get 12 days of vacation after how many years, right? And we've had to scale it back, but we get a lot more vacation time. And you look at Revere Beach also, for example, much higher pay, no Kelly days. I believe they pay 50% of their employees' family coverage, right? I believe we can look at that. We pay 75%, right? So what your wages are and what you take home to your family are not necessarily the same thing, right? You got to look at apples to apples. So with your beach, neighboring department, like similar, only one station, 56-hour work week, 40 paramedic applicants, right? Seminoles are neighboring, they're a little larger than us, right? 56-hour work week, I believe, no Kelly days. Right? Largo, much larger than us, not the same to compare to, but they don't even have a 3-week Kelly day. They have a little more, I think it's a 9-shift Kelly day on there, but again, different animal. Same PPs, very similar. Kelly day, right? Huh? They do. They have Kelly, I don't here.
Sounds like we go back to tape.
What's that? Haven't. Recent mention. But Deer Beach, no Kelly, Safety Harbor, same size department. Employee wise, no Kelly days, Seminole a little larger, no Kelly days.
What about the hours?
About what?
The contractual hours.
So when no Kelly day means a 56-hour work week,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
So, I'm gonna correct this one that says limit. Let's take that for the future. But as of, independent districts, we're the only one that has a 3-week Kelly day, right? Is it limit to 6 weeks? We believe, right? We'll have to check it. But as far as like size and similar, Tarpon Springs, no Kelly days, Treasure Island, no Kelly days, Oakmont, no Kelly days. So they pay a lot less. We make more money than them, right? We pay more than them. But we are currently number 13 in starting wages for firefighter paramedics. And in time off, you know, we're pretty far up there. But with the new wages, we're in the top, okay? We're neck and neck with Palm Harbor, 63,000, which I don't believe is in effect yet. More than Clearwater, you know, based on these salary studies, they might have changed between then and now as negotiations, right? But as far as like size and similar, this puts us much higher pay than the like size and similar departments around us, working less hours, because the other ones have a 56-hour work week. We're proposing a 52-hour work week. Right? So we believe that once this is out there and we're able to advertise the money that we're paying, you know, we also, I don't know what they pay there, but we also pay for paramedic school. You know, the contract that we agreed, $7,500, but now paramedic school is $8,200, and we pay that. We don't make the employee pay the difference because I want our employees to go to paramedic school. Right? $8,200. As long as you stay here 3 years, you're not paying back. Right? That's on top of it. You know, I'm sure other departments are trying to do that as well. But as far as like size and similar, this puts us way ahead in pay and less hours than they currently do.
Can I comment briefly on the Commission's question and the Chief's response?
Sure.
Commissioner Cosmidas, you asked the Chief a very pertinent question. What's the problem with allowing the parties to tackle these issues while bargaining with your contract? Very fair and incisive question. The Chief's response was, well, what I'm hearing, the union really isn't presenting this very attractive proposal to its members. That's not what I'm hearing from the members. That's simply not true. The union did a survey monkey. You know, that's a deal. And they circulated this question, the Chief's proposal among its members, and the results were 28 of the people who responded to the survey, 28 of the bargaining unit members did not like the proposal for various reasons. 9 of the respondents agreed. They felt that the Chief's proposal was a good deal. This is exactly why this thing has to be bargained. It's exactly why the union and the Chief have to sit down and review and discuss each of these proposals, as well as the ramifications these proposals. That's not to be done tonight. It's not your job to do that.
I've got,
Yes, ma'am.
why wasn't it done on May 17th?
I'm sorry.
Why wasn't it addressed on May 17th? Why did the union come to the table?
Chief declared an impasse. All the unions, all the chief was, look, we want to run this by our members.
I thought you said they did.
After the chief declared an impasse.
Can I clarify that?
Use the microphone.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So I just want to clarify that, if I make a mistake, I own up to it, right? But I thought the survey monkey you're referencing right now, that was just, because I want you to have the accurate information.
That was not the initial Survey Monkey. It was sent out. The majority voted for it. And then another Survey Monkey was sent out. But I'll tell you, we've invited the personnel to be able to come upstairs and see everything for themselves, and we were told no. We put out the pay scale. A month later, people were telling us they've never seen it, right? As far as declaring impasse, before May 17th, that was because of the email that said, we do not want to discuss the tentative agreement or any signing of a tentative agreement today or at negotiations on Friday, May 17th. We will wait to see how the vote results and move forward from that. Right. What are you voting on if you don't have a tentative agreement? Hearsay? Your lawyer, the law says it must be reduced to writing. It must be placed in the polling place. Everybody has the opportunity to review it and know what they're voting on. When I go vote in the presidential election, I'm not going to vote based on who they tell me I should vote for, right? I'm going to research it myself and see it for myself. So that's what the collective bargaining law says. So if you're not going to do that, what is it that you're voting on?
The survey monkey was simply to the membership, whether.
Come to the microphone.
Just so it gets to everybody.
No worries, yeah. So, I'm Greg Todd, the union president for Local 5374. Basically what we did was we sent a survey monkey out to the membership to see if they were willing to entertain a 52-hour proposal, since this was simply a wage opener. Right? We never agreed or intended to agree to change the schedule, because to us, a built-in wage opener, because of the referendum money that was starting to show itself, was simply that, a wage increase, retaining our benefit of a 48-hour work week, which is a 3-week Kelly. Really, the direction of the fire service is going to a reduced work hour week, whether it's a D shift with a 42-hour work week or a 48-hour work week with a 3-week Kelly. All these departments that Chief is talking about that have these 6-week Kellys, they're on their way down to what we have currently, right? So where they're at is a 56 or a 53, 52, depending on how their Kellys are. But the intention is to go to a reduced work hour week, and that is simply for our mental health. We do a very difficult job. We see a lot of bad things. I personally had 2 very close friends of mine at Seminole kill themselves within 7 months of each other. That's why we have these benefits. It can't be replaced. This benefit that this district has, as far as the 48-hour work week, has been paid for hand over fist by not getting increases in the past. I was at a neighboring agency for 13 years, watching these guys take it, and they did. They stayed, they stood up for this district, they walked the streets, they got this referendum passed, and now all that hard work is getting essentially taken away. Everything that they've gotten so far has been a trade-off of time for money. And all we want is a simple wage increase. And if there's going to be changes to the entire contract based on a work schedule or time off or what have you, it should be done when the entire contract's open, not during the wage opener. And that was our position. That's why it never went to the membership, because we never recognized the wages, the wage opener to include the work schedule.
Why is that? Why was that?
Because to us, a simple wage opener is an increase in wages because of the way that It's the referendum money, Karen.
It's not.
Okay, well, I understand that, but that was our position, and with the benefit that we have and the mental health issues that are going on in the fire service, that's something that we want to retain. And if the department is staffed appropriately to support those kind of benefits, then we can continue on and retain a benefit and have an attractive salary. We're not asking to be the top paid in the county. We want to be competitive with a benefits package that makes sense. And that's all we want.
Well, I said in meeting way back in January, February, heard the same thing presented by the chief. And I heard nothing come back from the union. And every time that I have a meeting with the chief, find out if you guys have presented anything new or different, it's always been negative or no.
Right, and admittedly, I was in paramedic school, so I haven't been as president as I probably should have been as a union president, but here I am. I'm done with paramedic school. That's all done. I'm certified paramedic. So the reason is because we were essentially at a stalemate. They weren't coming off of a 52-hour proposal, and we didn't see it changing the entire contract, essentially coming off of a 48-hour proposal. So there was absolutely a stalemate, and we didn't come back with anything that they were going to agree with because it was a 48-hour proposal, and likewise from them. So that's how we ended up here.
Can I ask you just off the top of your head question? We put this off. Negotiations start up again. The same proposal is brought back up as far as Kelly Day. If you're not willing to negotiate it now, why are you going to negotiate it a year from now?
Because at that point, the entire contract would be open, and multiple articles within the contract would be affected. And when the entire contract's open, there's bargaining back and forth. With a simple wage opener, to us, that didn't include the work schedule.
So you don't believe that the wage schedule and the Kelly Day go hand in hand?
Honestly, no. I think that we should absolutely retain our 48-hour schedule because of the demands of the job and, like I said before, the mental health. That's becoming a serious issue within the fire service. But with that, it's a benefits package. It's all inclusive. Everything's got a monetary value tied to it. Admittedly, Chief said that he didn't really, understand the FLSA pay with the 52-hour proposal. That's going to cost $150,000 of overtime right off the bat. So FLSA law, anything over 53 hours a week is time and a half, unless sweat hours are incorporated, which they weren't at first, and then they ended up becoming part of the issue to get straight time until you reach a cap of hours, and then you get overtime. So as time went on, things started adding to this proposal, and that's another reason why things changed with, people in support of it versus not in support of it. And there were 2 survey monkeys that went out. The first one, people couldn't open the link, so it was redone, and we had everything as far as the chief's proposal in there, the pay scale, everything, and it was 28 to 9, not in favor of changing the work schedule for wage. So, like Bob said, we are absolutely in a position to do nothing now for this wage opener that was set before I was a union president, and just get to the entire contract, and we can hammer out an entire contract all at one time and address all these issues.
But your concern going into it was more than wages. I mean, you brought that to the table. The work hours, the overtime.
Well, we were asked what the issues were
Right.
with, the line personnel and the membership. And yeah, there's issues all over the place. Overtime, it is brought up isn't necessarily operational overtime, right? Sometimes that's imposed by things going on, whether, you know, we're putting a rescue in service. There was overtime when 26 became an engine before the Safer grant came into effect, which we're gonna have to pay for after 3 years. And another Safer grant that if we get, that's gonna be 3 more years, and we have to pay for all those employees. So there's a lot of money being spent, and all we're asking for is for us to be taken care of as far as our benefits as well as wages.
Do you feel that allowing people to work 74, 55 hours is okay? Because I mean, I know you're concerned about mental health.
Right, so right now, we have, if we get overtime, we're there for 48 hours. That's common across the fire service. Our employees aren't allowed to work 72s without, like, if you work at 72, like, there's absolutely no other option. Right, so it's one of those things where from our point of view, if we're staffed appropriately to cover the benefit, we won't be in this position where the overtime limit's going to be through the roof.
That's something that's going to occur way down the road. In the interim, the amount of hours that's being generated and will be generated for the rest of this year, you know, how can we address that?
I'd love to see the formula that's supposed to create that, because I know when we've had preliminary conversations about this, it was everybody's got 10 vacation days, 3 days of sick time, and it shows this entire deficit that, you know, isn't necessarily the case. And we asked what the impact of this proposal from the district was on the overall budget, and we never got a response. So we really don't know what this is going to cost over time, even making the changes. That's all I got for you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jake, would you like to address anything else?
Sure. So I just want to address some of the comments that I made with President Haas.
As far as the overtime, we went to a new software last year, and Chief Carpenters, Aaron, and Kim, Lou, Pat, they're all instrumental. Myself, and now we can track so many things. So the overtime that I quoted, 7,766.25 hours as of July 12th, that's only overtime that's pulled from vacancy, need a driver, need an officer, need a paramedic. Okay? That's not EMS overtime, that's not any other overtime. Those are in separate categories. Okay? As far as the FLSA pay that I said, yeah, when I did this, I said I kind of overextended, right? I didn't realize going into the 21-day cycle and that every third paycheck for those who actually work the extra hours in that pay period from not having a Kelly day in that pay period, they automatically get 9 hours of overtime, right? In there, and that costs money. However, we're almost in August. The firefighters could have had this benefit back in March, February maybe even. As far as the referendum goes, we all know that was never intended to pad our wages. That was to keep us afloat. We were $700,000 a year negative, right? 65-year-old fire station, 58-year-old fire station, rather. We're rebuilding Fire Station 28. We just purchased property for a new fire station, things that we have to grow with. We didn't expect to be paying $700-something on that property. And now staffing that we're gonna get overtime. So this overtime is not anything else. It's not when we get reimbursed from the county and we put in a rescue truck for special events and things like that. It's simply the deficiency in hours. The fix to it is adding more people. Okay, like I said, we're gonna add one more person in October, and we really need to add 3 more lieutenants. Because when you look at what the deficit is, and we don't have enough people that are acting officers, so they cause overtime. If we were to do that now, we would have to hire 3 people from the outside, because we don't have qualified internal candidates that meet the criteria. I want our personnel to grow with the organization, so we're gonna put that testing off for a few months, give the few individuals, I think there was 5 or 6 that put in the interest, right? Give them the opportunity to get their qualifications that they need to sit for the exam, and then hire those positions, right? The issues are not going to be solved by more people. Like you can see on the spreadsheet, the firefighters, the newer firefighters who are not paramedics yet, or they can't drive yet, or they're not an officer or acting officer yet, they can't fill in the gaps, okay? On top of that 7,766.25 hours of overtime, okay, between Chief Carpenez and Chief Stonberg, they've worked 296 of that for free. For free. We don't have anybody to cover. Okay? I'll tell you, I'm not going to make the comment, but you're welcome to come by my office. Anybody will tell you I work 80 hours a week. But yeah, I do get vacation too, so I don't work 80 hours every week. But I do. Certain weeks. You know, just like our firefighters, they don't work 52 hours a week. Yeah, they get time off too, right? And they should. As far as President Hott making a comment about a stalemate, right? We were at a stalemate. Isn't that the same as Impasse? There was nothing else offered. And the comment that's been made about 42-hour work week and been uneducated to others who have posted that. You know, most fire stations are looking at a 42-hour work week. Okay. I don't know how many fire departments there are in the state of Florida, but I believe there may be 3 that have a 42-hour work week, maybe more, but it's very expensive. I was the deputy chief of Boynton Beach. We had a $24 million budget. The next year was $25 million, and the firefighters went to a 42-hour work week. 2 years later, the budget is $30 million, right? 20% increase in the budget. It's very expensive. That's a big municipality that has a lot of money. There's nobody in this county that's doing that. I think Pasco's doing it as a trial basis. Maybe somebody like Jacksonville or Orlando, these big organizations that have multiple revenue sources. But we would have to hire 9 more people. And if we hire 9 more people, that's $900,000 basically with benefits the first year. Then there's no money for raises, right? When we hire 3 additional people, that's taking away from the money that's available to give for raises. So that's why we're trying to put that off so we can give the firefighters the wages that they deserve, be able to put it into place, evaluate, but I know the hours that are short. You know, I know our district chiefs because of their hours, and you know, we have options. Do we want to run without a district chief? No. That's why these gentlemen over here, they work those hours on their free time because there's nobody else available to do it, right? But we don't want to be a department that doesn't have a district chief. There's some that do, some around here that do. We don't want to do that because we want to keep our men and women safe, right? So they do those things. But I would say everything that was said and bring it to the table and that we were at a stalemate, you know, there were no other options brought to the table. We even had a meeting, try to discuss some things, just like do some brainstorming, you know, not negotiating, just, you know, nothing came out of that. So this is important to move forward. I know if the starting salary is $45,000 for an EMT, and you add 5%, right, $2,250. So it's $47,250. It's not competitive, and we're not going to get applicants, and we just proved that. We had 0 paramedic applicants, even though we have a 3-week Kelly Day. In Deer Beach, no Kelly Day, 40 paramedic applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other board comments? Questions? I don't want to usurp the chair's position here, but you guys.
Well,
It's time to make a motion or something.
I'll entertain a motion from anyone concerning this.
I'll make a motion to accept the district and the chief's proposal as outlined on these charts here with this offer.
Fair enough.
Is there a second?
Do I have a second?
I would just like to say,
Ms. Lawson?
I am disappointed that we have put ourselves in this position. I truly am, because I do believe that because we didn't have money for so many years, we created the problem by exchanging time off for the increases that we couldn't give you that you deserved. As far as not trusting the numbers that have been given, obviously you stated that you made a mistake in one item and fessed up to it. I have absolute trust in Erin. She is an excellent employee. She gives us the true numbers. And for somebody to stand up and say, these just aren't the facts. If they weren't the facts, Erin wouldn't be sitting there. She wouldn't vouch for them. We just finished an audit, and that audit said that they're no accounting misrepresentations. We're doing what we should do. Erin and Kimberly are doing what they should do to explain our situation. We had a referendum. You guys fought like the Dickens to get it. And I recognize that and I appreciate it. But we told the public we had a 20-year plan. And now 7 years into it, we're supposed to say, you gotta give us more money? That's not a good thing in my mind, because I honestly went to I didn't think it would make 20 years because things change, everything gets more expensive. But 7 years as a result of pay increases, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with that. I am sorry that we have created a problem with overtime. But I think what I will second this, because in a little over a year, you're going to be renegotiating everything. I'd like to see if what he's suggesting works. If we change the hours, I know you don't want to do that, and I understand completely. But if it solves the overtime problem and we get the results that you say we're going to get from this, and people are not working more hours, people are not working 55 hours, 58 hours, 57 hours, and there was one at 73, but then we'll have a year to find out if that is the case. If it's not the case, then you got a whole new platform to stand on. You told us this would happen and it's not happening. And I'm afraid I have to second it for that reason. I'm sorry, I don't want you all to work more hours. I want you to work less hours. I'm sorry? What did you say? If you're gonna make a comment,
They'll be
The same number of
working more
employees
hours.
are gonna
You're
work the same number of
you're
hours.
seconding them working more hours.
And you're voiding a contract that was agreed upon. You can't work less hours with the same number of employees.
Just let them go back to the table.
I'm voting against it because I think we should go back to the table. The animosity in this room is bad for this department, and I don't think we should be putting ourselves in a position to decide what's best for these firefighters at this stage of the game. I don't think your proposal was great, and I don't think your proposal was great, and I think you can do better. And I don't honestly know what these numbers mean, and I didn't think of it actually until the gentleman from Leland got up here. I don't know, I never asked, I never thought, was somebody out on maternity leave? Did somebody have an injury and they were out on medical? I don't know why somebody said 17 hours and somebody else said 42. I want to know the answer to that before I make adjustments to your hours. And I would tell the union, if this does not pass, you need to do better within, because if these numbers are accurate and there are people that are not pulling their weight and working, I understand that for a period of time, there was no money to give, so you were giving time. But we're past that now, and I thought that the firefighters were a brotherhood. We've got somebody from Louisville, we've got somebody from Tampa. There are retired folks here. It's about doing what's best for those that are coming behind you. So to take the attitude of, screw it, I've gotten my time, I want to keep my time, and I want to get a raise too, it's not fair to everyone else. And so I would suggest waiting until you come back to the bargaining table and you can reopen that entire contract. And if you need to make adjustments to how employees are classified in that contract, you have the opportunity to do so. So if you have somebody who's only working 17 hours legitimately, I'm just reading the numbers off of this, then guess what? They're in their own little category and they don't get a raise. Let the money go to the people who are working. And I just don't think that, I mean, we're talking about whether or not hiring people is going to work, not hiring people is going to work. I don't think that there has been a good, and maybe it's a communication breakdown, I think there's a distrust. I think that passing this as proposed will actually cause an implosion and a level of resentment, because they're just asking to stay the same. So I understand it's weird that we're not trying to force a raise. I just don't think it's fair across the board, especially given this variation in hours and overtime and work hours. And I would say, you know, if this doesn't pass, you need to go back and figure it out internally. Figure out what you can do with that contract when it comes back to that bargaining table. And the other thing is, we'll have a lot more data under our belts on what all these different fees are, the Airbnbs, the registration and those fees, a lot of the other fees that the district has been collecting, and sort of better, you know, they've created better infrastructure in place to track the collection of those fees, where it's coming from, who owes, who's not paying. So we'll increase some of that revenue. And I understand.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we can't, short-term rental prevention revenue is separate.
I understand. Let's really finish. And I understand we've got the referendum, right? And I understand we just got $1 million earmarked from the legislature on fire station. So my point is, I understand that all of these things are earmarked for certain things, right? You can't use that $1 million for anything other than 27, right? We've got the money that's for 28, you can't use that for 28. What I'm saying is, all of that will be better collected and in, you know, in a tangible spreadsheet or available data or whatever it is, where it would be easier to show what the money is that could go to salaries, where that money came from, why the money from the impact fees couldn't go to salaries, why the referendum money couldn't go, what is there And I think you have a bigger pool of data in the future when they sit back, or if they get back to the bargaining table than they do now, because a lot of this stuff is so new. And I don't think it's understood, and if this doesn't pass, then I would also stress to the folks in the union that you do sit down and budgeting is hard, it's very hard, and things are, this is only for this, right? You can't use it for anything else. I know it seems like a very odd concept, but I think that there could be better education in that area too. Also, so everyone, not just firefighters, but everyone in the district better understood what's being done with the money. You just ask people to pay more taxes every year. You're not going to be able to go back anytime soon and ask them for more, right? Everyone's paying more for homeowners. You've got condos, increasing, everything. You're not going to get more money from the district. So I think this is also a good opportunity to use this time to better compile information so you can present it to the members of this district, the folks that live in this community, so they understand where money goes and why all of a sudden firefighters are getting a 12% raise. Heck yeah, we got money and here's why. Whatever it is, I just think it's an opportunity missed if we just run into paying this. And I don't think that, I know you worked hard on it, I just don't think it's fair to all the firefighters out there, and I'm not worried.
I'm sorry, but just so you also know that there was multiple requests from the union for financial data. We had multiple brainstorm meetings about trying to explain. So if there is a better way than the multiple meetings that we already had, if things need to be explained in a different way, we are happy to do that. I just don't understand.
No, and I'm aware of that, I absolutely am, but I also understand that's what you do every day. And so a lot of times people that don't know that don't know what to ask. They don't know what they don't know.
Okay.
If that makes sense? So I mean, and this is, again, that's what you do, that's what you do every single day. So you know those numbers inside and out. It takes me forever to figure out some of these budgets, and I got a wee bit of a background. So I just think it has to be, let's go basic, and not to insult anyone, but it's hard budgeting and how this stuff is allocated. It's not easy to understand. And I was kind of hearing that tonight. Well, there's all this money. Well, it's not that easy. So I think if everybody understands where the money comes from, like grassroots, and I don't even know. I could try to help understand it and help you understand it for someone else. But you know what I'm saying? But I think there's a way to do it, and I'm not hearing that everybody's on the same page, and I don't feel comfortable with that, because I think everybody can be better.
This is a question for you. What if they win? They can't, what do we do, since it's been an impasse? We have to make a decision tonight, or can they retract the impasse and go back?
They have to wait for the bargaining. I think they have to wait until the collective bargaining opens.
You can simply, if you don't want to accept any of the proposals, you can simply reject them all and take no action today, which would end up kind of in the same position you're in.
My concern is for us bringing new employees on. If we're so far down on salary, what do we do about that problem if we wait a year and 3 months?
I don't know, but that's why I asked the question. The folks in the union and the folks that got hired know what they signed up for, and that was their offer not to do anything. So I could be wrong. There might be a mass exodus. There might be a difficulty in, retention, and I think that would definitely be a factor in the new bargaining agreement in some way. But it just has to work itself out. But I just think that the animosity felt in this room tonight, it's not hate. I think there's a better way to get there. I say we leave it as is, and that's my suggestion.
We can't hear what they're discussing in the public forum.
I said I don't know what I'm
We don't like to hear that though. Let them go.
Not a problem.
I mean, if there's a hiring problem, I think then, you know, the union's gonna have to look long and hard at what it is they're asking for, and that's the other thing too, is be careful what you're asking for, taking no action. But I just don't agree with forcing it. I think that would actually create more hostility, and more animosity and more resentment, and that might be more likely to drive people away from this district than just not hiring because the salaries.
Yes.
I'm feeling that in this room tonight.
Yep.
Well, I believe that it will create a hiring issue and a retention issue because they don't want to do anything. Status quo, they don't want to do anything. So in fact, that puts the district in a position where trying to find qualified people, hire qualified people, is just not going to happen. When you look around the county right now, people are picking up individuals, East Lakes Highway 6, Harbor, they all have plenty of applicants. We can't get a single paramedic applicant.
Because of the animosity in this fire department. Our people are going and applying at those other fire departments.
I can't hear you.
It's because of the animosity in this fire department that's why we're not getting applicants. It's well known throughout the county that there's a lot of animosity here at this department, and our people are going and applying for those jobs at those other departments because of how it is here.
Can you tell me?
My name is Kayla Ziner. I'm a wife of a lieutenant here. Who will now be singled out. Yep, he will be targeted now.
Oh.
No.
You're just
It's happening. It literally just happened. Today.
We don't want to cause trouble, and we don't want ill. We want.
Who's ever speaking has to come to the microphone. Put your name on the record, please.
My name is Melody Steiner, and I'm a parent of one of the lieutenants here. I have watched him try to fight for what he believes in for the last year, and I want to cry over this because he feels that he is, I don't want to say the word targeted, but he feels like, and I'm sorry, Matt, that he's just fighting a no-win battle, and he's just trying to make things better and trying to, I heard a lot of talk about the new guys coming in and them not getting paid as much. I have never seen someone who works so hard for the new guys coming in and trying to train him. And Matt is probably one of the nicest people you will ever meet, but he has had to have combativeness with people that he hasn't wanted to have. And it has broken my heart for the last year and a half to watch him suffer because he's trying to fight for what he believes in. I'm sure you have a good plan, and I'm sure that they have a good plan. And I'm sorry, because you're probably embarrassed that I'm doing this. But I have watched him come home and feel sick over trying to do things. I feel like he's now in a position that it's only getting worse for him. And I don't want that for him. He's a good person and a good man, and he works really, really, really hard. And he has been let down by this department recently. He hasn't been treated the best. and it really sickens me. I don't know what the solution is, but he's been in firefighting for over 15 years. I don't know, maybe close to 18, I'm not sure how many. And he has never had issues or problems or felt the need to fight until he's been here. That's all I want to say is that no one's trying to be mean, no one's trying to have vitriol, no one's trying to belittle anyone else. They just want what's best for everyone, including the DCs and the lieutenants who work hard, and the chief. Everybody wants everything for everyone, and it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be so difficult. And it's just been made difficult recently. And I'm sorry, it breaks my heart to see it.
It breaks mine too, because I love our fire department. I didn't know that there was this much anger and bitterness. I guess I just started to find out in the last week. And it breaks my heart, because I thought we were one big family.
And I think for the most part, most of them are, and they all care about one another. But there's just been issues that have happened. I can't, speak for that. You need to, and maybe you guys could talk to the firefighters before you make a decision. Don't leave it up to this group or that group to do a survey. Do your own. Go to them yourselves. Talk to them. Find out what they're all feeling. From the lower guys to the higher guys. And here, but to come to a meeting like this and make big decisions that are life-changing for these firefighters and these people, and there's different ways to look at each issue. There's different ways to look at the wage piece. There's different ways to look at the hours piece. You have to take the whole package, which is why I believe that they want to wait and look at the entire package and be fair with an entire package. And not just bits and pieces or here and there. And they're not just greedy wanting more salary. It's not like that. And I don't know what the answer is, but I just felt compelled because it really has made me sad to see a person that I love so much, who is a very good person and a kind-hearted person, who has felt defeated. And I'm sorry, Matt, and I don't mean to have embarrassed you or anything, and if I did, I apologize.
Give her a hug.
If I may, part of what I was getting at, and maybe it wasn't clear, is my concern is that if we take action tonight and do anything other than the status quo, we are doing a disservice to the people in this district, because this, it's not, while this is a management employee issue to oversimplify, it directly impacts the safety of the people that live in this district. And I would rather there be a couple of unfilled positions that we can, if there has to be overtime, it can be addressed, rather than an absolute implosion of the district and not being able to provide any of those, or a very diminished amount of those fire rescue services. And so that's kind of the other thing that I'm looking at, and why I just cannot vote for anything, either proposal and anything other than just remaining the same, because I just don't feel like it's good for the district overall.
Is there any way we can think of, we can't?
That's why I
We've
want
got
that
plans.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, so it's in their hands, and I think they need to work through it, and I think the district will be better served by the parties working through their differences.
If you're talking about year and a half, or year and 3 months.
I'd rather have one unfilled position now than everybody moving to Seminole or Cleveland or East Lake. That's what they're representing, and that's a concern.
Just to say, in theory, the CBA could be adjusted prior to its termination if everyone agrees to adjust it along the way.
We can't hear you in the back.
What's that?
We can't hear you back here.
Sorry. All I said was all I said was the CBA could be adjusted if all parties to the CBA agree to any adjustments prior to the end of the natural end of the collective bargaining agreement.
Point of clarification, are you suggesting that the status quo remain in effect and inviting the parties in the interim to sit down and talk about the chief's proposals and
I'm not suggesting anything because I'm not an elected official and I can't do that. I was just trying to answer Ms. McKenna's question about did we have to wait a year or 3 or 5, you know, whatever it is to September, end of September 2025, that's all.
Can't hear.
I'm just asking what I can do. There are legal questions sometimes, okay? So, if we reject both proposals, does that send them back to bargaining?
Not necessarily. In theory, that they can go to the bargaining table anytime they want.
Any other comments, Dave?
No, I know the chief and the unions have been talking about this for most of this year, going back and forth. Everybody's spent a lot of time coming up with solutions and proposals, and I'm a numbers guy, and I appreciate charts and everything because it is helpful. And I think it would be wise to go with a 12% raise across the board and cut down on overtime, which is a big item in our budget, which we need to get under control.
We got more overtime, so we can leave.
Okay.
All right. If nothing else, any other comments? Call for a vote on the motion that Dave made. Bessie has a second.
No. We're voting no.
Others says no.
Yes.
Dave says yes.
Usually he gets to go last, but, you know, it's up to him.
I'm going to reject her. Okay. That majority, then the motion fails.
I'm going to ask them to go back to the bargaining.
It's strictly up to the union and.
Because I think we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot if we don't do something about the pay. And
I
I'm
probably
probably
suggest you guys really try to work this out. In the best interest of everybody in this room and the district.
So-
discussing these things with the chief.
Well, you can say that.
So-
but the letter here is otherwise. They're canceling the meeting, so that's,
So you do need to resolve, there's an impasse, so the impasse has to be resolved. So you can do that by a motion to reject both proposals and resolve the impasse that way.
I move to reject both proposals.
No.
Strongest.
Let me just make sure that,
Respectfully, I think if what you're saying is that the motion would be to adopt the union's proposal of resolving the impasse by maintaining the status quo.
good point. You want to adjust your motion?
Yes, I move to adopt the union's proposal to maintain the status quo. And again, strongly recommend really trying to get back to the party.
So that means current salary stay in place till September 30th of 2025. No raises. From now until,
well, unless they go back to the party.
but they've been doing that since January, so.
No, I don't think they have to, because, I mean, didn't you say you didn't assume that the pay increase had anything to do with hours?
Based on the language we were in the waiver there, we did not consider the balance.
Well, if you consider it is, can you go back and talk?
All right,
So there's a motion.
do I have a second on the other motion?
Don't agree with either person.
I'll second it just for a vote. Okay. In favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
Somebody.
No, it's not going anywhere.
Respectfully, I think there has to be a resolution.
I think the resolution is that the status quo remains.
I think that's effectively what the board is doing in terms of not voting on either one of them. It is in fact for the remainder of the contract of this wage reopener until the September 30th expiration.
That's an accurate reading.
So that.
We need another session.
We'd be in a
Okay, the impasse meeting is adjourned.